Hello, welcome everybody back to the Inside Our Galaxy podcast. I am your host, Eric Hernandez. As always, we got to talk about our last game against the Portland Timbers at home, which resulted in another 3-3 tie at home. A little bit disappointing because we didn't get to get the 3 points. We needed the 3 points, especially with everything that happened around the league. But yeah, we're gonna give our thoughts, our opinions, everything about that game, and yeah, we're gonna talk about that. And of course, we have another double game week, the final double game week of the season, I believe, which we have Wednesday against the Seattle Sounders and then on Saturday against Minnesota. Both away games, both very crucial games. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to give our also our thoughts and opinions on what we should expect. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Have a good conversation going, and it should be a good one. So yeah, I mean, let's just get it started here. And of course, with me as always is LA Galaxy Central. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I think might be our final week in playoff contention if results don't go our way. So, like you said, it's a big week coming up ahead, and we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, very very big week. I mean, at this point, well, until we're eliminated, really, it's always going to be a big week and a big game going forward. But yeah, you're right. I mean, honestly, this could be it for us, depending on what we do and what happens. But yeah, I mean, let's get into it. But first, we got to talk about the Portland game, which, like I said in the beginning, which resulted in a 3-3 tie. You had two Zavaleta goals, which was very, very surprising. I think had everybody shook that he scored two goals. We're going to talk about that. Of course, we have Douglas Costa, who had one goal and two assists. Was probably the man of the match of that game, and honestly, just had an incredible performance coming off an injury. So, yeah, I mean, you saw some good, but of course, we saw a bit of the same. I mean, we let in three goals. Defense didn't look that great. You know, again, we just sort of let it go on this one, and we needed to take advantage of 3 points, especially at home. And we didn't do that. And like I said, with all the results that happened around the league, it made, that kind of just made it worse. Not worse, but just felt a little worse because we didn't get those 3 points. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there was a lot going on in this game. So yeah, what are your thoughts about it? How'd you feel about this one?
Yeah, I felt disappointed about it because it really just felt like we dropped the ball in that game. Like, we go behind early, and that's always a bad sign because the Galaxy have never won a game this year when conceding the first goal, so that's not a good start. And then you get back into the game quickly, then you go down again, and then you get one back. Then you actually take the lead, and then in the second half, like we've seen many times this year, you don't close it out. We can't close the game out, and it's another 2 points dropped at home. In our last three home games, we have no wins, and that's just not going to get it done. Ever since that San Jose game, like we were talking about before, we thought that would be a big momentum game, and we've played 7 games since then. We only have one win in 7 games, and you can tell me is one win in 7 games playoff material? Well, it's really not. And now we have two road games coming up ahead, two road games that are in difficult places, and yeah, it's not looking good at all for the Galaxy.
No, it really isn't. It's not looking good at all. And honestly, like, yeah, I mean, I felt really disappointed after that game, like, and I think it was like, I don't know, like you had hope, but at the same time, like you said, like we conceded first, and the stat that you said that we've never won a game whenever we get scored on first, right? That's the whole thing about the season. And yeah, like once I saw Portland score that first goal, I said, well, we haven't won a game whenever we get conceded first. So it's like, what could this be the game? Probably not. But once I saw Portland score that first goal, I kind of had that feeling that we weren't going to win. We get a tie, we get a point, that's great, but this tie really just does feel like a loss. I mean, I think that's how everybody felt because you needed those 3 points, you needed that win to really project yourself, and like, hopefully give you better hopes, right? Like, I don't think this tie really, eliminates us in general, but it really does, affect us in a lot of ways. And you just can't have that. And like you said, like we haven't won a home game, or our past like home games we've only tied. And yeah, I know I said a couple of the first ones I was like, you're gonna have to take it and just move on. But this one is one where I don't feel that way. Like, you can't just take this one and move on. Like, this is one where you gotta say, like, yeah, we dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, really, that's what I was talking about before. Like, remember the Houston and St. Louis game? Like, you were kind of on the boat where it's like, oh, it's okay. And you and a lot of other people thought it was like, oh, it's okay. It's not that bad. But, like, now it puts pressure on us on the road, and we know we're not a good road team this year. We only have two road wins all year, and I don't know how many games, but still, that's not a good record at all. And yeah, two road games coming up and more points dropped at home. I mean, what could I say? It just feels like we're not good enough at this point.
No, I mean, honestly, like it really doesn't. like I understand like there's some good aspects of this team. Like again, we scored 3 goals. You can't be mad about that, but it can't be to the point where we need to score 4+ goals to win a game. You know, like that's just really hard to do, no matter what the circumstances are. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like I don't see this team really being, a playoff team. If we make the playoffs, it's either because our offense just was really good and that's just about it, or like we just, we score. Like I just don't really see it being anything else other than that, and maybe the midfield as well. Depending how like if Ricky plays, this next game or whenever he plays again. But still, it's like I don't know. It's really it's like you want to have the hope, but at the same time, you look at this team on paper and what you've seen in recent performances, you kind of like start to lose that hope a little bit. And I'm the very optimistic guy, right? Like I can see this, like I don't really like to give up on a team, but like, and I'm not giving up on them, right? Like I still think they have a chance. They have the possibility, but at the same time, you look at what's happened recently, and you just say, well, I don't know. It's a tough task for this team to handle. That's for sure.
Yeah, one win in 7 games. That's very disappointing, right? I mean, you
Yeah, I
want to
mean,
see more after that, especially after that San Jose game. We had like so much momentum. We felt so good about it, and then it's just like nothing. It hasn't clicked at all.
yeah, I mean, it hasn't. It really hasn't. I don't know. It's just weird. Like and it's either a player. A lot of people like to blame a lot of things, right? It's either the players or it's the coaching or whatever the case may be. It's just like it's a mixture of everything. Honestly, like you can say it's not just solely on one thing, and I think that's what. Especially, there were some quotes after the game where some players said, like, that's not really the whole thing, right? It's not only on one person. We're 11 guys on the field, and yeah, I mean that's true in all aspects of it. But I don't know. It's like the confidence is slowly wintering down for me. Like I don't like I'm getting less confident with how we're going, and especially with this week coming up. Like we said, like this could be the finish of the season. This could be our season, no matter what. But yeah, I mean honestly, that's it's gonna be tough for sure.
Yeah, like a lot of things I said before, like remember in San Jose when we had a 2-1 lead, 10 minutes to go, we'd lose 2 points there. In Kansas City, we're up 2-1 at home, we lose that in stoppage time, we drop 2 points. Then this game, you have a 3-2 lead, 20 minutes to go, you drop those points. And then there's other games at home earlier this year where we probably should have beaten teams who should have been better. We don't beat them, so it's like if you're not getting the points you're supposed to get, it's like how in the world do you think you're going to make the playoffs by doing that? And especially by just getting ties when you're already in a really big hole. Like sure, it's good you're not losing, I guess, but when you're not winning games at all either, it's not like you're giving yourself an advantage over other teams.
Yeah, exactly. And also I want to say another point too. I don't think it's like considering what this Portland team has done recently. It's like they're a really good team, and the fact that I guess in a normal aspect, like if this was like a middle of the season game, and we were in a slightly better position, I wouldn't have been mad at this result. It's like a 3-3 tie. It was entertaining, you can say. Like we both teams fought, and especially against a really good team. But like if you look at it that way, like it wasn't that bad of a result. It's just the circumstances that we're in, right? And honestly, yeah, it's like, but I always say like the reason why I said like before about the Houston game and the St. Louis game where it's like you kind of take it how it is. I just say it like for a player's mindset, it's like, oh, like just got to keep moving forward, but like just don't focus on that. But it's like now we're at the point where it's like, all right, you kind of do have to focus on what we've did in the past. And yeah, like honestly, it's just like I don't know. Honestly, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is like like this game in general, it's like yeah, like now you sort of feel like the sense of urgency, right? You feel the sense of urgency even more now with this game and this result. So yeah, I mean honestly, it was just disappointing.
I mean, yeah, it's not anymore that longer. Like, it doesn't look good. Like, at the end of the week, we can seriously be gone from playoff contention if we lose both games. And, like, Dallas picks up 1 point or San Jose picks up 1 point or something like that. Because I think right now, what, we're 6 points away from the playoff spot, the final one?
6 points, 6 points
Yeah,
away.
so it's like, I mean, we do have one game in hand, but still, it's like if we just don't lose, if we lose both of our games and they win, then we might be 7 points behind with 2 games to go, and mathematically, that's impossible to do. So, I mean, yeah, it's no longer a what if thing or we should do this thing because it'll be better for us. It's like you have to do it now. Your season's done.
Yeah, it's do or die. It really is do or die. And now we're getting to that point, and again, like if it in these do or die situations, I'm not really confident with this team in this situation. Like, and I think a lot of people are sort of thinking the same thing. You're probably thinking the same thing, where it's like, yeah, like we're in a very, high pressure situation with where we're at, and again, with recent performances, I don't see this team really doing much. But again, we'll just see about that, and we'll
I
talk
mean,
about those games too. Yeah.
is there really pressure though? Because like a lot of us don't really have expectations to make the playoffs this year, or really expectations for this year in general. I mean, like, right? I mean, there's not really that much we expect out of this group this year.
Well, I guess you're right, but I mean, still though, if you're in a position to possibly make the playoffs, like I mean, there is a little bit of pressure, right? Like you can't just say that there's no pressure, and again, it's like I think honestly, like we would want to see this team make the playoffs in sort of like a in a prideful way, I guess you can say. Like if we make the playoffs, you're going to say like, you know what, we went through a lot of stuff this season with despite the injuries, despite the off field stuff. You could say, hey, we still made the playoffs. That's something to be at least a little proud of, right? So I think that's just sort of what we're fighting for at this rate. But I mean, there is still pressure. Like you can't say there isn't pressure, but I mean, it just really depends on how your expectation of the team was. If it's low, then yeah, you're not going to really feel as bad, or you're not going to feel like you're going to be like, I told you so. Like this team wasn't going to do anything. But if you do have this really high expectation of them making the playoffs, then you're just going to be more disappointed, if anything.
I guess I'm on the left side of what you said though, because I've said this year the whole time this team is just not good enough. Even like with the injuries, like before they were not good at all. And it's like, yeah, I just don't think we're good enough this year. Combined with the off-field distractions, combined with all the injuries, I just cannot really see it happening this year. But hopefully, we can try to put something together to close it out.
Yeah, hopefully. Like I said, there's some good things about this team. There's some, there's also some bad things about it too. But I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about the players, unless you had any other points to talk
I
about
mean,
the
yeah,
game.
to add to a good thing about this team, we are the eighth best offense in the league out of what, 29 teams? That's how many MLS has, so that's good. Like, we're like 20 places better than some teams on offense, so we can score now, which was a struggle early on. But yeah, defensively, which we'll get into, it's like, it's just as bad as it's ever gotten, and that's really saying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it really has. Which again, let's talk about that defense. Let's talk about a little bit of the players. So, in this lineup, you had Bond, you had Cuevas at right back, you had Yoshida and Zavaleta as your center backs, and then you had Raheem Edwards as your left back for your defense in this game. Um, how'd you feel about the defense on this one? I mean, it's kind of a recurring theme about it, but how do you feel about it?
I mean, how could I feel about it? I feel awful about it. Seriously, like the fourth game in a row of three plus goals, that is just, it's ridiculous. I don't even know how that's possible. And it's like, even the worst part is like, how are you not making changes to this? It's like, even if we don't have the best players available, even if we have injuries, it's like you have to make a change to this defense eventually, right? Like if they're conceding three plus goals every game, it's worth a change. Even if our change doesn't work, which honestly I don't think it will because you don't have the players, but still you just have to make a change at this point. A change to possibly even save your season, and it's like that's not happening. And the more that doesn't happen, we're just gonna keep conceding three goals again. So I mean, I don't even know at this point. It's honestly, it's one of the worst Galaxy defenses I've ever seen, and I've been a fan through some extremely rough years, especially on defense. And this year, it's honestly up there for the worst. It is so bad on defense, and yeah, it's getting tiring at this point. Like I just want to see a decent defensive team. I'm not even asking for a good defensive team, just like average for a year would be just lovely, just one year. But yeah, we're the worst defensive team in the league again, and it's not going to change unless we actually make changes to it. Not only right now, but this offseason too.
I mean, there was a little bit of change for this one. I mean, for like a few players. Like, I mean, you had Cuevas starting this one. You had Zavaleta starting this one because Mavinga was injured. So I mean, you did have some changes in the defense. I mean, you can't say like we've been rolling with the same defense. I mean, but like you said though, it's like we don't really have the players to make it a good defense. You know what I mean? And although there were some good spots into it, just because, like for example, Zavaleta scored 2 goals. Like, sure, his defense wasn't good, but he did score. I guess, like you can't be too mad about that. But
I mean, that's
at the
not
same,
defense though.
I know, but that's not defense, right? So it's like you like at the end of the day, it's like we got to defend good, and yeah, this team hasn't been defending good. It's been one of the worst defenses. I mean, we are the worst defenses, and just in general in history, I would probably agree that this is probably one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. And it's crazy because it's like we're barely realizing that this now at the end of the season. Like like we brought up this stat of saying like, oh, we're the worst defense this season. Like, so it's kind of weird, but like, yeah, I would agree. It's like we haven't been that great, and for its reasons too, But but even then, you said changes. Like what changes would you make to this defense? Like, I mean, what more can you do to it?
Right now, you can't really do anything. Obviously, the transfer window's closed, and we still have our guys injured. But this offseason, we need some major changes in there.
Yeah, but I meant like you wouldn't put sub anybody out from the bench or anything, or like
Oh
you wouldn't
yeah,
do.
well, I would sub Raheem Edwards off to start off with. He's not a good defender at all. I've said it before. I don't think Raheem is just very good. Like, I mean, sure, he's good offensively. He can do some things, but overall, defensively, he's super weak. He has bad positioning. He can get beat easily one on one. He commits silly fouls, and yeah, I really don't think Raheem Edwards is a starting caliber left back for this team. Not just for this season, but even for next season. If they want to try to be more competitive, try to make the playoffs, try to go deep in some competitions. I don't think Raheem Edwards is the guy for that position at all. And I've said
Yeah,
that before. I'm not a big Raheem Edwards fan, but a lot of people are. But I don't know why.
I don't think people are fans of it, but I think like you alluded to, it's just like he is good on offense, and that's just how our I guess our system is just that we need our fullbacks to be part of the offense. So like at least you still have him there, and he's good at that. But I would agree he's just not a good defensive minded player, but yeah, I mean, honestly, you really can't do much about this defense, to be honest. And there were some interesting quotes coming from the defenders after this game. I mean, like, you had like Zavaleta saying, like, it's not just a defense thing; it's the whole team. And it's weird. I don't know if you heard that quote or saw that quote on like on Twitter or anything, but it was interesting because it wasn't like a shot at everybody else, but it was like I don't know. It was like he's not wrong, but at the same time, he's like you're not right either. It's like it still is a defensive thing. Like at the end of the day, yeah, like we need to fix over those turnovers and stop losing the ball so easily. Which I agree that we do that a lot, but at the same time, when those situations happen, you have to defend. That's what you are. You're a defender, right? So it's like, I don't know. He had an interesting quote there too after the end of the game. I guess Yoshida had a good quote that you mentioned or that you told me too. It's like, but even then, it's like I don't know. Defense was just in shambles. There's nothing more you can really say about it.
Yeah, Yoshida had the quote that was that he's kind of frustrated. No, maybe not frustrated, but he doesn't like the fact that every week he's having a different center back partner. And I have some bad news for him. That's not an injury thing with the Galaxy. That's just a management thing. That's a players thing, and it's been like that for years since like 2017. I mean, how many different center back combinations have we have, and how many of them have been shit? Well, all of them. So, I mean, I have horrible news for Yoshida. It's not an injury thing. He said we need guys to get healthy. It's not an injury thing, man.
It
It's,
really,
it's just it's a club thing.
yeah. I was going to say it is a club thing because I mean, think about it. You're right. Like when you said think about how many like combinations. I'm like, God damn, there's so many that we've used over like just these past few seasons alone. Where it's like man, like yeah, like what the, it's like. There's been so many combinations that you can't even remember some of them. But it's like yeah, like that is a club thing. That is a problem with our situation. And yeah, I mean honestly, I don't know. Like this defense is what it is. I guess like you can't really go more into it.
I mean, yeah, true. And also, Amir Cuevas is he's awful, dude. Like, he's more of a track and field athlete than he is a soccer player. This dude's just all over the place. Like they say, he runs like a headless chicken pretty much. He's all over the place, and he's just like, I don't know, man. The Cuevas is not the answer either. Liradam is way too slow and old. Caligari has a torn ACL, so it's like, we're fucked, I guess. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah, I guess. I mean, Cuevas didn't have that great of a game either.
Well, he never
Yeah.
does.
Well, it's only been his like third start, so
Just
I mean,
okay,
like
just because a player is young doesn't mean they're good. Like that's something people don't
no,
understand.
no, but no, that's just giving up on a player easily. Like no, it's like I get it. It's like they're young, and it's like yeah, sure, they're not good now, but I mean, think about how many players we said that they were young and then they don't turn out good, or they don't, or they're not good now and then they turn out better than later on.
Okay, but
You
your
know?
first point though, true, is like we've had other players in the Galaxy that were like young. It's like, oh, they're young, but then they turned out to be nobodies even in their prime. Like, I don't want to say Cuevas is that, but that's kind of where I'm leaning towards.
Well, but
Like,
that's
I just don't rate him at all. Like,
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's like an unfair assessment. Like you can't. Like I'm not saying he's playing good, right? Like I don't think he played that great of a game either. But I'm just saying it's an unfair assessment. It's like there's a difference between Cuevas now and then how we were rating Efrain like not too long ago. Like you know what I mean? It's like Efrain had 6 years on his belt, or however many years. I don't think it was 6 years, but like it was a lot of years, right, on his belt, and he didn't do much. Like sure, he had his moments, but that's a fair rate. But like this one is like it's like 3 games as a starter in a position that we're at right now. It's like yeah, you can criticize him, but at the same time, it's like that's not his future yet. You
I
know?
don't know if he should be in MLS though. Like, I feel like he's more like a USL or MLS Next Pro type of player.
Well, maybe. I mean, yeah,
It's probably better for
I'd
his
probably get
development right now, which is fair. I mean, it takes time, but still.
probably, but at the same time, it's like once you put a guy in MLS, well, I mean, I guess in your situation, yeah, it probably would work, but like for other players, it's like if you take a person into MLS and then give them minutes and then you send them back down, like I don't know if to me that doesn't feel right. In a sense, it's like, well, you already gotten the experience in MLS, like keep getting that experience, you know. It's like I don't know. It's like it's really weird. Or the way I'm trying to say it is weird, really weird. But I get what you're saying. I mean, it takes time. It takes time to develop. You know, like I said, we've had some young guys in here that we said like, oh, they're bad in their starts, and then they end up being good. I don't think a lot of people like Julian Araujo when he started here. Like I don't like he wasn't that great when he started here, and then look where he's at now. You know, it's like he's playing in La Liga, locking up Vinicius Junior. So it's like like again, it's like it takes time, it takes development. So, but I mean, again, like Cuevas, I don't think he had a great game, but like our defense in general just didn't have a good game.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to our defense too, I don't even think it's an injury thing. Like, I think even fully healthy, this defense is complete shit. Like, I think it's something we have to address in the transfer window, and not just one move. We have to make like one expensive move and bring in some other moves too, because this defense massively needs help, and we need to offload some pieces too. And one of the pieces I want to offload is not going to be a popular opinion, but I still think it's one we need to offload. But yeah, this defense needs a massive reformation.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. Which yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in that off season, which is going to be very interesting as well. But any other points you had about the defense, or should we move on into midfield?
I mean, yeah, the player I was talking about probably offloading this offseason that I think we should consider is Raheem Edwards because I just think defensively he doesn't really offer anything. And I think even going forward, he's a little bit overrated. Like he loses the ball a lot. He's not a great dribbler. He's not a great decision maker. He doesn't have the physical strength to win the ball back. He doesn't have the height to win headers. He can't really cross the ball. So it's like, what exactly is Raheem Edwards offering to this team sometimes besides like just a couple of dribbles and like some passes over the top? Other than that, it's like, I just think he's kind of overpaid and yeah, I'm not a big Raheem Edwards fan. I think he actually had a really poor game against Portland and some poor games this year. And I just feel like keeping him in the starting lineup is denying the inevitable that we need a better left back. We spent $5 million on a left back. He's been on the bench for a long time, and I've been calling for him to start. And yeah, I just feel like we're just sticking with a mid player and just, I don't know. I'm not a big Raheem Edwards fan, but I mean, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is his last year, anyways, right? I think we only signed him for like 2 years or
I don't
two
know
seasons.
actually, but would you
I,
actually re-sign him or I honestly would not. Like I'm gonna be
I,
completely honest.
I mean, I agree with you on that aspect because, like, you're right. It's like we're if you sign him, I don't think it's denying the inevitability of starting Aude, but I think like yes, you're going like you paid $5 million for Julian Aude, who's a young, promising left back, and I think yeah, like you're gonna have to start him at some point, even if this season was just him getting used to the league and getting some sort of minutes. Like I think inevitably you're gonna have to start him. So I wouldn't disagree with you on that, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree on that opinion either. Like I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of changes into this defense for sure whenever that time comes up. But anyways, I think we can move on into the midfield a little
Let me
bit.
one more point about defense though. I'm actually kind of happy with the Galaxy because, like, think about Portland too. They have these two left backs, Claudio Bravo and Juan David Mosqueda. They brought them in when they were really young, and now they're one of the best fullback duos in MLS and probably two top five players in the league at their position. That's what I wanted the Galaxy to do. Remember, last offseason I told you they should get a U22 left back and a U22 right back, assuming Araujo is going to leave. And now we finally got that out in Caligari, even though Caligari is injured right now. I'd really like to see those two develop together on the flanks, kind of like Claudio Bravo and Juan Mosqueda did for Portland. I'd kind of like to have that duo too, where we have like two top five players at their positions in the league. I think that'd be very helpful for the defense, and that's why I'm saying stop starting Raheem Edwards. You're denying the inevitable. You're just sticking with kind of a C minus type of player, just trying to get by. It's like let's actually start a project and start building forward instead of just sticking with a below average player.
Right. I get what you mean. Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like, I mean, you're gonna have to give out his minutes as well, which is sort of I guess the sort of the same thing what I'm saying with Cuevas, right? It's like you got to give him his minutes for order to get better. Again, different situation,
There's a
but
different level to them though. Like I think one is
there is a different
significantly
level
better
for
than
sure.
the other.
There is a different level, but even then, like it's the same concept. Auda's not going to get better if he's not on the bench. Like you know what I mean? It's like that. It's like two different players, but same concept. It's like you got to give him his minutes, and I think where we're at right now, it is a little bit not risky, but it is just like with the situation we're at, it's like you could do it. Like you really you could give that guy his minutes, but again, I don't know. like I said, a lot of things could go into the defense, right? So we'll just see what happens there. But yeah, let's move into the midfield. So you had Rosell in the midfield, you had Cerrillo, and then you had Delgado. No Ricky Puig, game time decision. He was scratched off for the game. Was in attendance. He was there to watch the game, but of course he just did not play at all and didn't even get dressed. So yeah, I mean for a Ricky-less midfield, how'd you feel about it? What were your thoughts about it?
The midfield was okay, not as dominant as I wanted to see it. Portland having Eric Williamson and Diego Chara, but I still think it was okay. Edwin Cedillo was really good, a guy that I've been very high on for a while, and I thought that was a great trade. We got him at great value. And you can see his quality he brings. I think he brings a lot to this team, not only this season but in future seasons too. He can be the backup to Gaston Brugman when he's still here. He's one of the best backup center defensive midfielders in the league, and I think he did an amazing job. But Uri Rosell was horrible. I mean, I appreciate what Uri Rosell has done. I respect the fight. I respect him coming in, getting all these minutes that he didn't expect, really putting in the work. But I think it's time for Uri Rosell to go back to the bench. Not that he's done really bad, but I just think that lately it hasn't really been that good. And we kind of brought him to be a substitute anyways, not really a full-time starter. So, I mean, once Pooch comes back, hopefully that he does, we can put him to the bench. And Delgado, he did okay. I still think he looks a little bit hobbled too, like Ricky Puig. He even said himself he's not fully 100%. But overall for the midfield, I think Sadio was a stand-up, but the other guys were just kind of okay. And Rosell was not great.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Cerrillo did play good. I think Rosell still played okay. I mean, yeah, sure. I think this wasn't one of his best games, but I don't think he did, terrible or anything. But yeah, I mean, for without having Ricky, I think it was, it was okay. Like it wasn't too much. I guess they did what they were asked to do. I guess so. Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't much to it, but yeah, I mean, obviously Cerrillo is a guy who I think we both praise a lot and a guy who we rate highly, and whenever the next season and stuff like that, he's going to be a good player as well. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, midfield was okay. That I don't really have any much more to say about the midfield other than that, unless you had any other points. No, all right. I guess let's talk about offense here. You did have Douglas Costa back in this one. You had Tyler Boyd starting. You had Ricky Sharp, fucking Billy Sharp, Billy Sharp, starting as your striker. Of course, the standout Douglas Costa, 2 assists, a goal. Coming off of his injury. I mean, he was really the star of the game in this one, and even without having Ricky, we said who is going to be that playmaker, who's going to be that guy who's going to step up when Ricky's not there, and Douglas Costa was that guy. He was the guy who was really creating a lot of things, was great on set pieces, and yeah, I mean, honestly, like, going into that game, talking to people, it was kind of weird to say that, like, we're glad that Costa is back in the lineup, like, it's weird to say that, but, it is what it was, and he had a really great game. But anyways, how did you feel about the offense? What were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, so overall, the offense wasn't really that great, even though they scored 3 goals. But an individual from the offense was great, and that was Douglas Costa, like you mentioned. His left foot is truly, when he's healthy, one of the best in MLS. He puts in such powerful balls into the box. They have so much pace on them. He's such a threat from set pieces. He's quick. He can switch the play. Douglas Costa is an incredible piece to this team, and we're really kind of starting to ask the question: has he earned himself a new contract at the LA Galaxy? Maybe not a DP contract because the injury concerns are always there, and his availability is always in question, but would he get a TAM contract from the Galaxy? Would he accept it? He's 33 years older now, kind of going on 34 next year. Would he be willing to accept that contract? Maybe he's happy here. Maybe he's gotten used to the league. Maybe he feels like he can have a bounce back season with the team and really contribute even more. And it's like, yeah, Douglas Costa, ever since Chicharito went down with his ACL injury, has played unbelievably. And he was the only reason we got anything from that game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like Douglas Costa has been, and we said this, like you said, since that Chicharito injury, he's been playing great. He's been playing to that DP level contract, but yeah, I mean, the availability of Costa is still very much a big question, and a lot of people ask that too, right? It's like, what are we going to do with Costa? I think you have to question yourself whether we re-sign him to a contract. I don't know about DP because you're right, like availability is a big thing, right? But even when he's healthy, I think you could say he's a DP player. So it's like very much, again, it's interesting, but I don't know. Like, I mean, Douglas Costa is, I think he's won the heart of a lot of people, right? Because of this turnaround. And he seems very motivated too. Even in his, press conference, he was like, you know what, like, I'm here to do whatever I can. Like, I'm here to perform. And, he has it. Like, it's not like he's lying. It's not like, any BS or he's just, like he's doing what he's supposed to do. And Yeah, I mean, honestly, like again, it's great that he's performing. You're gonna have to ask about whether he wants to come back or not, and what his goals are too. But yeah, I mean, obviously Douglas Costa is a great player. But you're right. I mean, offense we didn't do that much. I mean, Billy Sharp really wasn't all there. Tyler Boyd had some moments, but again, I don't think he had that great of a game. And yeah, I mean, offensively we weren't great. I mean, two of those goals came off a defender, so offensive, we were not great, but Douglas Costa was that one offensive player that stood out to it.
I mean, yeah, look, that's why I expressed the importance of DPs, right? Like Douglas Costa was a DP for us. He was consistently very good and has been lately. Ricky Puig is a DP for us. He's usually consistently always very good when he's healthy. But the other guys like Tyler Boyd, Diego Fagundes, like I talked about, the sort of inconsistent players, you're not always going to get great games out of them, and we kind of saw that this game. But it is good our DPs can step up, and hopefully when we try to add more DPs later on, we can get these consistent type of players.
Yeah, if a good question is like if you give Douglas Costa a TAM contract, he has to be a high TAM, right? Like I don't like I like people think when they say TAM contracts like it's a low contract. It's like no, you can give a guy a good amount of money on a TAM contract. You're just going to eat up a lot of the salary cap. So it's like is Douglas Costa worth a good amount of the salary cap? Is he worth giving him a lot of money that's going to affect other positions? Like, did you ever think about stuff like that?
Yeah, I have, and I do think he's worth it. If it's not a DP contract, I absolutely think he's worth it, especially like when you see some of the other players on a roster that are a little bit more inconsistent than he is when he's healthy. So if Douglas Costa's on the field, which yeah, the injury part is always a concern, he's going to be one of the best players on the field for us. And I'm going to express it again on set pieces. He is so dangerous on free kick and corner kicks. I mean, he can just make something out of nothing there, and that can really get us victories and even points throughout a season, which we really need. And he's one of the best set piece takers I've honestly ever seen play for the Galaxy.
Yeah, honestly, you're not wrong about that. I think he's really good at set pieces, man. Like honestly, and he's always been good at set pieces, even when he was bad. Like he had some goals off of set pieces, some really nice free kicks. It's like, like he's always been that guy you can rely on set pieces. But I mean, honestly though, it's like he's been good for us in that aspect. But I don't know. It's like because like I always say, like I always ask that. It's like people always say it's like oh, if like don't give him a DP, give him a TAM. It's like okay, it's like sure DP you can give him as much money as you want, doesn't affect the cap, but you expect him to perform or very well, and then but it's like TAM, it's like okay maybe the expectation is not there, but you're going to eat up a lot of the salary cap that's going to like affect other positions. It's like I think people need to understand that as well when it comes to TAM signings. But again, it's like I feel like for me it's like you're going to have to give Costa a high TAM, and it's just a matter of are people willing to do that?
I mean, yeah, look, right now I don't even know what our salary cap situation looks like this offseason. I know we have two DP spots open, at least possibly three, considering MLS might add a third DP spot. Well, third DP spot for us, a fourth one in general, just for the league. And yeah, I really don't know what our salary cap spot looks like. I don't know how many TAM contracts we have. I don't know how many TAM players are going out of contract. So that's something to definitely look into. But yeah, if a TAM contract does become available and Douglas Costa at this stage of his career recognizes that he's probably not a very high level sort of salary cap player anymore, but still can get paid a significant amount of money and wants to stay in a league he's familiar with, I think that can be a good option for both sides.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it could be. It just depends on the player, right? I think that's where you gotta have to look at some of these players. Even some other players who are out of contract. It's like, there it's just depending on what they want and and also what the plan for the Galaxy is, right? It's like what is our plan for next season? What is our plans on stuff like that? It's like that's just there's so many factors about like when it comes to like signing players or whether a player wants to come back, right? It's like it just depends on everything else, but yeah, I mean, but of course, Douglas Costa is one that I think a lot of we're gonna have to consider for sure. But anyways, let's see subs. I think subs was a very big question mark in this game. I felt a lot of people did not like the subs going into not necessarily the players, but more necessarily the fact of when we subbed them in. How'd you feel about the subs, like or the management by Greg Vanney?
Yeah, I agree with those people that don't like the subs because I don't like them very much either. You took out Billy Sharp, which I understand he wasn't playing very well, but you put in Joveljic, and Joveljic was horrible again, even off the bench. Just, even after getting a goal in Austin, doesn't look very good, very lively again. And, it's been that kind of a season for Joveljic. and we put on Michael Barrios. That made sense. Tyler Boyd wasn't playing very well. We brought on Diego Fagundes for Douglas Costa, which honestly I will defend. I do understand because Douglas Costa is coming off an injury and we have a game on Wednesday. So, I mean, taking off Douglas Costa, I mean, just when you look at it, it's probably not the best decision considering how well he was playing. But considering he was coming off an injury, I do think it made a lot of sense to do that. But the one thing I didn't like about the substitutions is that we didn't see any Johnny Perez. Like, how could he play like that the last week, play so well, probably have so much confidence, and then get zero playing time? Like, seriously, you should reward your players for playing well. I'm disappointed that we didn't with him.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't like the subs in the aspect of maybe we put him in too early. And I think, kind of like how Austin and Minnesota, like they sort of folded against us. I feel like we kind of folded as well a little bit. Like I felt like we kind of took our foot off the brake. It was like, I think minute like 76 or 65 between there where we started making those subs. And again, I think some of the subs were reasonable. Like you said, like Billy Sharp was having a good game. Tyler Boyd wasn't his best. And they were for players who, I guess like, they weren't like Fagundes wasn't bad, I guess, to sub in, but still though, it's just very, I just felt like the time of them was very, wasn't the right call and maybe sort of the motivation of why we made those subs. We needed that fourth goal to really seal the deal because Portland could have, and they did eventually, score the tying goal. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't like probably the reason why we made those subs. Like once those subs made in, I was like, that's a little too early. It's a little too risky, especially against this Portland team who's been on fire. Like that's the way I look at it. It's like the more of why we subbed those players in, not necessarily who we subbed out or who we subbed in. You know what I mean?
Isn't it crazy though that we scored 3 goals in the past 2 games and we don't even have a single win? Like that is just insane. I've never seen anything like that before.
Again, it's surprising. Like I said, it's like that's just really what it's gonna take, right? It's like, do we really need to score 4 goals to win a game? It's like that's so much to ask for. Like it's like it's unheard of. Like you can't expect a team to win you with by 4 goals. It's like that's insane to me. And again, it's like I don't even know how many goals we scored in like the past few games, and like we haven't had a win. It's like that's crazy. Like I forget the number. It's like so we got 3 this one. You had 3 in Austin. You had 4 in against Minnesota. That's already 10 goals in the past 3 games, and you didn't win a game. Like that's
Well, we
crazy.
beat
Or actually,
Minnesota.
well,
Yeah.
we got 1 win. We got 1 win. Like that's crazy. Like we have double digit goals and we only had 1 win.
Yeah, that's true though, because if you score like 3 goals, you would think like a decent team or just even an average team could win like 3-1, 3-2, something like that. But like 3-3 every time, it's like, come on, guys, you gotta play some defense here.
Yeah, I mean honestly, like that's bad. Like that's really bad. And I don't know. It's just like like again, if we like I said, if we make the playoffs somehow, it's because of our offense because we score goals or just the fact that we can score goals. I think more or less because like we said, offense didn't have a very good game, but we scored. So it's like it's really going to be us, just a matter of how much we score.
I mean, I will give this Galaxy team this though. They do find ways to score goals even when they're very limited with some of their players out. Like scoring 3 goals without Ricky Puig and Chicharito on the field is obviously very impressive.
Yeah, and especially when you have Zavaleta scoring 2 goals in one game. Like I
Two
mean,
headers, yeah.
yeah, 2 headers. I mean, technically he had the hat trick because he had that own goal, but like, but still though, it's like, yeah, 2 goals by Zavaleta. You don't expect that every day. Like honestly, like, and yeah, like I mean, I would give the Galaxy credit for that, right? Because it's like when they don't have their best players, sometimes they find a way to get those points or the win sometimes. So yeah.
It's funny because we were such a bad offensive team to start the year. Remember, we were getting shut out like every single game. We had Memo at wing, we had Chicharito playing horribly, and we had like Efrain Alvarez starting at wing at one point. Like we couldn't score at all to start the year, and now it's like we're scoring so much, but like we can't stop anything to save our life. And yeah, you're seeing these 3-3 ties a lot now.
Yeah, I know it sucks. But the thing is, it's like you at least saw a flip in the offense, and for the defense, you haven't really seen a flip at all. That's just been consistently bad this whole season.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make changes in the transfer window to really improve that because with the players we have right now, even like I said before, even fully healthy, I don't think this is a good defensive team at all.
Right. But again, like I mentioned the Zavaleta quote earlier, I don't think he's wrong in the aspect of we also need to limit our turnovers and the way we lose or how we lose the ball and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's also a big issue. Like I agree with Eric Zavaleta on that. Like I think that's also another thing too. We just got to find a way to stop turning over the ball, and also defend on transition because we can't defend on transition for jack shit.
All right,
Like
two things though. You mentioned turning over the ball. You want to know who turns over the ball by far the most on this Galaxy team? Raheem Edwards. And you want to talk about getting back in transition? Amir Cuevas. The two guys I don't like. You just mentioned Zavaleta mentioned them right there. The two guys I don't like.
well, that's true. I
There's a
mean,
reason for that though. It's not like I just like dislike them for no reason. I just don't think these are good members of the defense and really players we can rely on going forward.
right, I mean that's true, but but still though, like I don't like yeah, but it's not just Raheem that's only turning over the ball over. Like I feel like there's in general we do turn over the ball over quite a bit. Whether it's Raheem, I mean Ricky has had some moments where he turns over the ball a lot. I mean, like like I think even in this game, I think was it for the first goal or the second goal? I think Cerrillo was kind of like the man who turned over the ball as well. So it's like it's not just one person, right? It's not only just one person. It's the general aspect of yeah, we turn over the ball a lot, which causes our defense to always keep defending and defending, and then that's how we get scored on a lot, and that's sort of that what Zavaleta is at least alluding
Yeah, I
to.
agree with that. I do agree. It's kind of a team thing, but I also think like some players do it more than others, and I think Raheem turns over the ball way too much and tries to dribble way too much, take on too many players, and a lot of the time it doesn't really work. And yeah, he loses the ball in dangerous spots, and then he has a hard time getting it back because physically he's not very gifted. And Amir Cuevas always going forward and not getting back. Talk about transition right there. I mean, for Portland's third goal, Cuevas was at right wing. I mean, what is he doing up there? So yeah, I think those two players are kind of the reason why this defense is not playing very well. Part of the reason that too is Zavaleta is not a very good defender, and Bond's been shaky and goes. So really, everyone besides Yoshida in our defense is just not it. Really, we need some changes here. We need some guys to get healthy. But yeah, for the rest of the season, it's going to be a long ride probably. Like you said,
Yeah,
if we actually end up making the playoffs, which is extremely unlikely at this point, it's going to be because of offense.
yeah. I mean, it really is, and which will by the way, we'll also talk about like I guess our thoughts on playoff hopes and stuff like that when we talk about our previews here, but I mean, I guess we could move on into previews unless you had any other points to go into for this game. No, yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't have any other points either. Again, disappointing. I will say, atmosphere wise, at the game was pretty good. Like, I mean, honestly, like, I think that was probably the most I've seen the stadium full this season or like with a lot of people. Like I think it was like a good atmosphere. I think a lot of the supporter groups put in the work, and just even in general the fans, they put a lot of work into this game. And we needed more of that, and this was a game where you needed that. Unfortunately, the whatever happened on the field didn't lead to a win, but still though, glad to see the fans in there, glad to see them all do go to the game, especially with like the last home game where it was like hardly anybody, right? I think that was the Minnesota game, right? Or was it? I forget what was the game where it was like really low in attendance.
Minnesota, I don't think it was empty. I think it was decent for a Wednesday game, but it wasn't that full.
Okay, well, point is there was one game where it was like there wasn't that many people,
The
but
Vancouver
it
Leagues Cup game, probably that one was super empty.
could have been that one too.
That
But
was a
point
while
is,
ago though. Yeah.
yeah, that was a while ago too. But point is though, like I am glad to see that there were a lot of fans in attendance at the stadium, and glad to see everybody there. But anyways, yeah, I guess we can move on into our previews for this week. We do got two to go over. First game Wednesday against Seattle at Seattle. Always a difficult spot to go up and play. I mean, Pacific Northwest in general, whether it's the Timbers or the Sounders, the Galaxy always have trouble playing over there. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, midweek game on a turf field as well. Like, I mean, this is not going. There's a lot of things not in our favor for this game. But how do you feel? How do you feel about this one? What are your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, I mean, I already told you after the League's Cup break how I felt about our remaining schedule. I circled two games, away at LAFC, away at Seattle, and I said, forget it, we're losing. And like I said for LAFC, I'm sticking with that one. Like I'm going to say for Seattle, I'm sticking with that one. We're going to lose that game. It's going to probably be pretty ugly. We haven't beaten Seattle in 10 straight games, which is completely embarrassing. I mean, they've absolutely dominated us. Ever since Keenan Donovan left the roster, it's been Seattle has owned us really unlike any other team. There's no way of denying it. It's been one-sided. They've really just beat us every single time. Sometimes they beat us really bad too. On a turf field on a Wednesday. With our DPs being injury prone, Costa Steel sort of dealing with an injury. Pooch is obviously still injured. Are they really going to play on a turf field coming off an injury, especially for Ricky Pooch? I don't know about that. I would be surprised if they did. Even if they do, it's going to be a massive struggle. what has changed for the Galaxy either from their past games versus Seattle. Like we always had a really bad defense against Seattle. Well, right now it's even worse. We don't have the offensive pieces right now either to, well, maybe we kind of do, but I don't know. I just can't really see us getting anything from this game. I think it's going to be a bad loss. Seattle can clinch playoffs with a win. I think it's going to be easy for them. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking forward to that game, but hopefully we can get something out of it. But even then, if we even get a tie out of it, does it really do much for us? Not really. So yeah, it's going to probably be pretty ugly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it'd be a surprise if we get a win in this in Seattle. I mean, like you said, 10 games where we haven't beaten them. I mean, last time we faced them. We faced them in the Open Cup this year. That was against their B team. And then we faced them in April at home, and then I believe we lost 2-1. You had Jalen Neal scoring in that game as well. So it's like, yeah, I mean, of course, it's always tough to go play in the Pacific Northwest. It's always tough to play against Seattle, and yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a turf field. You got some players that have injuries, on them. Whether it's Douglas Costa, Ricky Puig, how are they going to manage those guys? Are you going to, put them in there no matter what, all in, no matter what, win or lose? It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not confident going into Wednesday. Um, I mean, again, depending on other results around the league, could this, like, could we still be alive even after a loss? Maybe, but I
You
mean,
can
yeah, you can.
mathematically.
Yeah, mathematically you can,
You
but like
will
I don't.
actually.
But even then, it's like we have 4 games left. There's 12 points available. I feel like the Galaxy need probably about like 10 or the 12 in order to probably make the playoffs. 9 might not cut it. So like even if this is a guaranteed loss, like you said, or even if we do lose just in general, I don't even think if you win the next 3 games after that, like that,
Well,
that really matters.
nine could possibly cut it because we play FC Dallas on decision day, so that could be something right there. But yeah,
Mhm.
you're right, and we haven't won a game in Seattle since 2016 when Robbie Keane scored the winner for us. That was the last time we won a game in Seattle. So I mean,
7 years ago.
yeah, this
7 years ago, we
Keane scored
haven't.
the winner 1-0 for us. That was when we last won in Seattle,
Yeah. So
and in
yeah,
that time we lost 5-0 and we lost 3-0.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not looking good for us, really. It really ain't
No.
looking good. And Seattle is always going to be Seattle. They're going to be a team that's gonna go contend and compete. And even last year in their lows, we still managed didn't even beat them at Seattle. So it's like, it's going to be difficult for sure. Um, I don't know. Like I said, I'd probably say that I'm not confident in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose in this one either. Like you said, like I think this was one where you circled on the calendar and said, "Yep, this is going to be a loss." So yeah, I don't know. Not really confident in this one, but I don't know. Like I mean, I don't know. Any what do you think there could be like some sort of positive in this going into this game? Like, do you think there's anything going for us?
Well, in the past, we've had shitty defenses pretty much forever, and we have gotten a couple of ties in Seattle, I guess. Like in 2021, we tied 1-1, so. And in 2022, we only lost 3-2, so can we just tie the game, I guess? Can we keep it close? Can we keep it respectable to maybe try to pull off a point? Because I don't see us winning, but maybe could we get a 1-0 lead and try to hold that for the whole game? I mean, it's going to have to really be that type of ugly game to win because we're not going to go there and outplay them with the players we have. That's just not going to happen. And I mean, defensively, are we really going to stop anybody? We've let in 3 goals in the last 4 games in a row, and it's like, it's not getting any better from here, so. Yeah, it's going to have to be ugly. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and but honestly, I don't see it happening in Seattle. I think they're going to beat us pretty comfortably, and they should. Honestly, they have a chance to clinch the playoffs, and I think they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I don't know. Like, I don't see it happening. But if we do, I mean, that'd be massive. Like, it really would. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, if we manage to get the win, that's going to be big. That's going to be a big step up for, going into Minnesota and things like that. So, like, I mean, don't get us wrong. We want the win. We want to see this team, do what they can. But at the same time, you look at everything, like all the factors going into this game, and you say, like, that's going to be difficult. That's going to be tough to deal with, which makes, by the way, which makes Portland even more of a disappointing result. You know what I mean?
Well, not just Portland, other 2 home games too against St.
Mhm.
Louis and Houston. I was talking about those being massive disappointments too. Don't those look like disappointments now that we got only 2 out of 6 possible points? Like, because now we have to go on the road against difficult teams, and we're having to hope to win, and it's just not very likely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah, you're right. Like even those games as well. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it is going to be a tough game, and we'll see what happens there in that game. But yeah, I mean, Seattle. I mean, they're just Seattle. Which, by the way, they got a rebrand. I don't know. I never even asked you. How'd you feel about the rebrand that they made like a last week or whatever?
I mean, I thought their old logo was fine, but I think it makes sense. It's a little more modernized. It's every once in a while it's time for a change. So if they thought that was best for them, then they did that. I mean, good for them.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of 50-50 about their rebrand. Like it looks nice, but at the same time it's like their old logo wasn't or their current logo isn't like anything bad.
We've
I
never
don't know.
lost them under their new rebrand yet, so I mean, hey, you got that going for us.
Yeah, there you go. What if the rebrand is for us to win games now? I don't know. So well, we'll see what happens there, but well, I mean technically they're still under their current brand, so it's not like we're facing them under their new rebrand, but whatever. Anyways, I guess we can move on into Minnesota as well. Unless you had any other points about Seattle.
No, I mean we have one win in our last 7 games, and now we have to go on the road to a very difficult place. It's not looking very good, but we just gotta hope some good things happen and try to get out of there with a result.
Yeah, definitely for sure. But let's talk about another place that's difficult to play in, which is Minnesota. Yeah, so we're going up against Minnesota United this Saturday at Minnesota. We know what happened last time we played them. 4-3, epic comeback, Billy Sharp hat trick. So that was a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I mean we're going up against Minnesota. They're not going to want to let that happen again, and especially in their home. So yeah, I mean another tough place we get to play. Of course, we've had some results there. I mean, you had like the 2019 playoff result and stuff like that. Like I mean, we had games where we've performed well, but still, regardless, Minnesota has a good atmosphere. They have a good fan base. They have everything going for them, I guess, home wise. So yeah, but what do you feel about Minnesota and going into that one?
Yeah, I don't really feel very good about it at all, especially if Reynoso plays. Like, I feel like last time we got a little bit lucky. That's not going to happen again. And I feel like Minnesota is going to be able to score on us again, like I said, because our defense is still really weak. And I don't know if on the road the Galaxy can form that type of offense they formed at home. Like we always see at home, the Galaxy's offense is better than it is on the road. And yeah, I mean, away at Minnesota, it's like it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Like that's why I say you have to get your home points. You have to win your home games because if you get your home points, then you can afford to go on the road and maybe drop a few points. But now that we're in the position we're in, it's like you really can't drop points and we're going to these two tough places and I don't feel confident about either one. And I mean, there really is a strong possibility we could be eliminated by playoff contention by the end of the week. And I think it's a strong possibility. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I wouldn't be heartbroken either. I think it's sort of coming a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be very difficult away from home to try to beat Minnesota, especially because they're going to come out motivated too, because Minnesota's going to be disappointed what happened against the Galaxy and Carson. So they're going to want to come out and prove a point and try to get back at the Galaxy. And yeah, like I said before, try to get in the playoffs. So it's going to be a very difficult match. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, another difficult one. And yeah, I mean, of course, like we said last time we played Minnesota, like they left their foot off the gas. They had some mistakes in that game, and that's what cost them that, for us to come back. And I don't think they're going to do that again, especially at home. So yeah, I mean, honestly, this, like we said, this is do or die for the Galaxy with these two games, whether it's Minnesota or Seattle, and at most you can only lose one, I guess, right? Like one of those two games. Maybe like I said, maybe you mathematically could still make it with 9 points if you win the other two games after that. But still, though, it's like you got to get a result at least with one of them when it comes to this game. When
You
it
have to
comes
get
to
a
this
win
week.
with one of them, right? Like a win,
Mhm.
not just a
Yeah,
tie. A
yeah,
result would be a
yeah.
tie.
I mean, for sure. Even with two ties, like you're, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they're going to be out. So
they'll be
you got to
close.
get a win at least with one of those games.
I would
It's
like
pick.
to I would like to bet on winning in Minnesota a little bit more than Seattle because Seattle we haven't won since 2016. Minnesota we won in 2021, we won in 2019. We got a tie in 2022. So it's like Minnesota we have shown we can get results occasionally. So I think that's the game you have to target as a game where we can possibly get points, not to mention they're kind of struggling a little bit, but yeah, I mean both these games though, don't get it twisted. Both of these games are extremely difficult and we're not favored going into either of them and it's going to be an extremely tough task.
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, are we even favored in after those two games? You know what I mean?
No,
It's
no,
like,
none of them,
like,
no.
I really don't think we're favored for the rest of the season. Like we're really lingering on the possibility of now that we could get eliminated after this week against these two games. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you're right. I'm probably a little bit more confident in this one, depending what happens with Seattle. But it's like, I don't know. It's like it just these are two tough matches, and Minnesota again. We could get a result. We probably could, but again, you can't just bet on a tie. You got to get a win. You got to get 3 points. You got to make sure that we find a way to get through. But yeah, and like I said, I think realistically, you got to get 10 points to make the season, or at least like I feel like that's like the way that we're gonna make it in. 9 maybe could get you in there, but I don't know, anything less than 10 points at this rate, it's like I don't think we'll make it in. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. But any other points you want to talk about Minnesota or even Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like in 1 week from now, we might be back here talking about how we're eliminated from playoff contention. I'm just wondering, will that happen? Will that not happen? I'm very curious to see. And yeah, it'll be an interesting week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be very curious. Or are we going to be here and say like, "Whoa, like this team is like completely
We got
different"?
2-0. Imagine that.
Yeah, like could you imagine if we do go 2-0? Like again, don't get it twisted for everybody that's watching. It's like we want this team to win. We want this team to make perform, but which hopefully they do. Like that's the dream, but at the same time, like again, this is going to be 2 difficult matches. But again, it is going to be interesting after this episode and when we come back to it. It's like we're either going to be like not sad because like we said, like we're kind of we're kind of getting to the point where like, yeah, we're going to get eliminated, but at the same time, it's like, are we going to be like disappointed, or are we going to be like, holy shit, like this team could actually make it? It's like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting after this week for sure. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, hopefully it's on the right side of things. So that's what we want, all of us for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to be on the right side, right? We want to win. We want to get those 3 points. If we get 6 out of 6 points, though, I'll definitely feel more confident for sure.
I don't know how likely that is, but that would be massive indeed.
I mean, yeah, it'd be massive. Like that's the dream. But like, I'd definitely be more confident. Like honestly, maybe if we get a tie, if we get a win, I'd probably still feel pretty confident though. Like I don't know if you would feel the same way.
It's just difficult though because it's really hard opponent, so it's like it doesn't really feel very likely. But those results itself would be very massive.
Yeah, I mean it would be pretty massive. Like I don't know. I mean we're gonna have to wait and see. Again, these players are gonna try. I know a lot of people are saying like even after this Portland win, we should probably pack it up and just forget about it. But I don't think the players are gonna do that. I don't think Vanney is gonna pack it up yet. They're gonna go out there. They're gonna go fight for it. And and honestly, that's what we hope for. We hope that they go out with the fight and try to get something out of it. Like I think everybody wants to see that. So yeah, hopefully these players are motivated this week and are prepared for whatever happens. So yeah, I mean, again, it's gonna be interesting. We'll see what happens though. But anyways, I think that's gonna be it for the episode. Unless you had any other points. No? All right then. Yeah, that's going to be it for the episode. Can't thank you guys enough for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me at Insider Galaxy, on social media platforms. Go follow LA Galaxy Central on Instagram. And thank you guys for listening. Anything you want to say to the listeners before we go?
No, I mean, big week up ahead is do or die now. We have to get it together, and hopefully we can get some results to go our way.
Yeah, hopefully. And for anybody that's traveling to either Seattle or Minnesota, obviously go show up and show out in that game. So, hopefully y'all are doing good over there and be safe. But big week. Can't thank you guys enough. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast, whenever you're listening to this podcast. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. And we can only hope for the best. But anyways, thank you guys, and G's up.
7 words.